So, if you want to know what's going on in the world of employer branding, then you're going to want to follow me and Chris today. We are at the Uncut, the Unconference by the EV Space. Big up to Claire, Souza and Alex Her. So yeah, we're going to have us people, and there's going to be plenty of good chat in store. So yeah, we're currently at King's Cross, meeting up with Chris. He's going to grab a bit of a coffee, a bit of a bite to eat before we start rocking and rolling. Just need to find him now. Nice. So Chris, man.
Yeah.
We're at King's Cross having a bit of a coffee, and we're heading off to EB Uncut.
Oh, indeed, my friends. Yeah. Do you know what? I'm really looking forward to it. Sun's shining. Really nice day.
Yeah.
Managed to get a seat on the train.
Oh, that's good.
So that do you know when you get a seat on the train, that just starts the day on the right foot.
Yeah,
so,
definitely.
But no, I'll tell you what, I'm really looking forward to this. It's got a short walk over to the Havas offices.
Beautiful offices.
Yeah, which I've never actually seen. I know you definitely have.
Yeah, a few times. Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm looking forward to seeing it.
No, it's good. It's, I had my favourites playlist on Spotify.
Yeah.
Kind of got me into the zone, but it's always good. So I think when you're working in the home office is great because of the flexibility, but be able to kind of take yourself out of that environment and go into a new environment is great. And I think just already creatively, I feel kind of energized by coming into this. So no doubt when we get into that conference, it's going to be great. I'm really looking forward to I mean, I've said it before, but I'll kind of say it again, is that at conferences, the stuff on the stage is always valuable.
Yeah.
But it's also equally valuable is the conversations that happen in between the agenda. And I think that's what I'm really keen to capture today.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the reason I also find that super valuable is that we've all got different opinions on, because there isn't one clearly defined route in employer branding.
Exactly.
The reason it is such a creative industry is that there's so many different ideas floating around to tackle, similar problems.
Yes.
Those people that are probably a little bit under-resourced, they haven't got the budget they probably like, they will get an opportunity today to meet other people in exactly the same boat. And I think just sharing some of those challenges, I forget exactly what the expression is, but is it sharing a problem halved, a problem?
Oh yeah,
you know what I'm on about.
Problem shared is a problem halved,
exactly.
Or something like that. Yeah.
So anyway, I think there's going to be a lot of that going.
Yeah, definitely.
And yeah, the fact that it's towards the end of the day, just before we probably break out into some evening drinks, I think it's pretty well timed.
Absolutely, very cathartic activity, I think.
Absolutely.
Hello, you alright?
It's really surreal to be standing here, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm just in the break because public speaking is not my thing. So bear me, I've got to do a bit of housekeeping. I think it's celebrating small wins as you go along. So, a stakeholder that's previously not even spoken to you and finding out in an email, brilliant, let's celebrate it. I think there's something in being able to celebrate and show it. I was saying gratitude now, I'm being a bit wanky. It is a difficult job, and there's tough times, but it's the people around you coming on that journey, and I love being able to celebrate other people in the team's wins and seeing them grow and develop.
Because I don't think inclusion is about fairness at all. It's about value. So it's not optional, because if you want to survive as an organization in the 21st century where everything is always changing, you need different types of people. We all are solving problems that we didn't have yesterday. We don't know what problem we're going to have tomorrow. For that, you need creativity. Just looking at that from a brain perspective, you need different kinds of brains. The more diversity you have, there's a difference between diversity and inclusion as well, which is interesting. Some people are just like, that's the same. It's not.
We've had, various AI tools have been around for a really long time, right? The kind of boom in generative AI and the kind of reason that you can do has probably happened in the last 2 years. That you can really turn something on a particular spotlight within a business.
So Chris, lunchtime.
Halfway through the day.
Morning session was good. Actually got a lot packed in, didn't we?
Really, really good. And do you know what? I knew it was going to be good. The format was all set up to be great, but I've been really impressed with the panel sessions.
Yeah, definitely.
What did we kick off with? We kicked off with
resilience,
grit.
Yeah.
Managing a bit of turmoil in employer branding.
I quite like the honesty of it all. You know, if I think back, God, it feels like ages ago, but I think when it comes to, I liked like Nick, for example.
Yeah.
Nick was talking about actually one of the ways of kind of making it in employer branding is to, seek forgiveness rather than asking for permission.
Yeah, I took a lot away from that actually. It resonated with me as well.
Yeah, definitely. It's not to say that you're going to be a ball in a china shop, but there's that thing about, I suppose, having confidence in what you do and know that you've been given the authority to do something.
Absolutely.
And do it. But I think there's an element of finding the right time to do that as well.
Definitely. And I think in the same panel, Ernst made some really good points. And
yes,
it was just about, if you know you've got to get stuff done, just go and make those connections.
Yes.
Just get yourself out there and get it done. Back similar to Nick's point, because if you wait around for things to happen and people to come at you, you're not going to get anything done.
Yeah.
So go and seek out the right people, and then to Nick's point, ask for forgiveness over permission every day of the week.
Yeah, definitely. I think with Ryan chipped in. So he said, but you make sure you have the right relationships, develop those relationships as well, because actually that's really valuable, so that when something goes well or something, you've got to ask for forgiveness.
Yeah.
There's that trust and rapport that's already been built.
Such a good point.
Because maybe it's an underrated, maybe we don't talk about it enough in employer branding, I suppose like lots of roles, is the thing about relationships. Talk about external audiences.
Yeah.
But actually thinking about our internal audiences and how you need to sell things in to them. Actually, not necessarily sell things in, but understanding what their motivations are and what their pain points are.
100%.
And then serve them on that basis.
Yeah, because look, let's face it, if the internal audience isn't engaged, the external efforts, they kind of, what are they for?
Yeah.
Because if we're bringing people into this place where, the comms aren't, hitting home internally, kind of the whole thing falls down. So 100%. It did make a lot of sense, actually. It's like the external efforts are hugely important. But like you say, Ryan McIntosh really did double down on those internal relationships and how important they are. And I think it was, it's a really, really good point.
Yeah, definitely. And then what else do we have? I mean,
so we had inclusion, didn't we?
Inclusion,
after that?
yes.
Being at the bedrock of employer branding.
So Marcia.
Yes.
I love what she said, throughout the morning. What's for you? What was the kind of key takeaways from that session?
I think the key takeaway from that session for me is that Marcia made it really clear that a lot of companies have diversity hiring as a tick box exercise. And if you kind of forget about that for a moment and focus on inclusion and understand that inclusion drives high performance, recruiting from a diverse group fuels the high performance. Yeah. So don't let it be don't have this thing as diversity hiring as a metric and, it be a kind of a checkbox that needs to be ticked. It's like, look, diversity and bringing in more diverse pools of talent will fuel high performance. And if you kind of just slightly switch that narrative from it being DEI, it's probably this thing we should do, to well, if we don't do it, the business is going to suffer. I don't know, that really hit home for me. Just switching that narrative to high performance, which made a lot of sense.
Actually, and you did say something when we chatted before the conference last week, and you said was that you cannot have a high performance culture without diversity.
Yeah.
Which means that inclusion piece is really important. I love what the panel said about actually you don't start with diversity.
No.
You start with inclusion.
Yeah.
That then gets you to diversity. And
Diversity follows.
Yeah. And I think it's, and particularly, I think, also, going back to what, Marcia said about you don't have to talk about diversity.
Yeah.
You can say, we want to have an organization where we have different points of view.
Yeah.
And different backgrounds, because
Yeah.
we know that's going to give us the best ideas and the best solutions for our clients and our customers.
100%.
And it becomes more accessible. And actually, I remember some of the conversation being about, senior leaders, especially like, middle-aged or boomer, white males, feel maybe threatened a bit, or have been felt a bit threatened by diversity.
Yeah.
But actually, I suppose like with anything, it's the way you package it up.
Of course it is.
Yeah. And make it more inclusive in his language as well.
Yeah, without a doubt. And there was a part of that session where you gave me a nudge, and we had a 3-second, 4-second conversation, and it was that piece around healthy friction.
Yes.
Being able, and I think you mentioned, Chris, it was like it's those sparks from that friction. Bit cliche. Apologies.
No, but it's true though. It's true.
But it's true, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, and if you can do that in a healthy way, it's that healthy friction and being able to have differing points of view, which moves the needle.
Yes.
And that's, if you want to create an inclusive culture, it's not all about yes, 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 and all agreeing and all singing off the same hymn sheet. It's being able to disagree, evolve, go in different directions, but doing it really in a really healthy way.
Yeah.
And I thought that was quite a prevalent point.
Definitely. And I remember then later on leaning to the other side, where Ben Phillips was next to me.
Yeah.
And I was saying, because there was talk about how you can have high-performing people, but they're all from the same university or same college. And actually, I said to Ben, is like, that really reminds me of Matthew Said's Rebel Ideas book.
Yeah.
Which is basically, he talked about the CIA and how the CIA would recruit the best, the very best. But those very best were one kind of person.
All the same.
They came from the college. They're a certain, university, college. They were a certain, background, certain culture.
Yeah.
Which contributed, not all of it, but it contributed to missing 9/11.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just not having that awareness.
Yeah.
And then Ben mentioned something about diversity of thoughts and how that's really important. So I mean, look, that was a great session, definitely, and
really good session. And I think after that, just before now, we went on to the conversation about AI.
Yeah, well, look, it's a necessary conversation. You said it already, haven't you? But it's definitely a necessary conversation. I think what was good on that bit, I don't know, for me it was. Well, and this is something I've heard a few times, but it's really important, is this thing about finding the right time for AI to be used.
Yeah.
Because I can't remember who said it. Well, it wasn't that long ago, goodness me, but if you use AI right at the very end of a recruitment process, it's like, well, what are you doing? You don't deserve to be in business.
Absolutely,
really.
yeah. And I think Katrina made some really good points.
Yes.
Which was more about, look, let's not neglect the human impact on the process. Like, yes, AI, of course, we're immersed in AI, and we'll be 10x this, much more immersed in the next 6 to 12 months. But still, don't forget the power of that human connection.
Yeah.
And she made another really good point, which was like, companies are really, het up about the rate of adoption of AI, but their ATS process still requires candidates to create a profile before they apply.
That's it.
So
Yeah.
we're running to level 10, and so many of us still haven't figured out how to get off level 3.
Yeah, you can't automate a bad process.
And it's just like, look, just take a breath. It's like, of course, we need to leverage the capabilities of AI, but let's first do an audit of everything that's going on.
Yeah.
That's got probably some tech enablement.
Yes.
And figure out where we can make big improvements. So I think investing in AI, and it came out in the conversation, is fundamental. But there are a ton of vendors out there. There's a ton of money you could spend and potentially spend badly.
Yeah.
Why not spend a bit of time assessing your entire process, get your ducks in a row, make sure that your house is in order, and when it is in order, maybe, you know, and things have started to iron out on the AI front, maybe look at some big investments at that point. But I thought that was a really interesting point.
Definitely, I think, you know, it's because if you've got a people problem, you've got a systems or process problem, AI is not gonna fix it. And I'm gonna think there was talk about, well, there's like over 500 vendors in the AI space.
Yeah.
You know, so they've got budgets, some massive budgets, some, you know, of varying sizes, and actually they want your money.
Yeah.
So actually you've got to really be knowledgeable about it.
Yeah.
And understand your own organisation, the systems and the process and the people you have in place.
100%.
To then choose the right vendor.
So true, so true. And we've got an afternoon, a packed out afternoon.
Absolutely.
So should we go and get some lunch?
Yeah, let's do it, man. I'm starving.
Me too.
For me, it's my breakfast. I fasted this morning. Oh, brilliant. Let's go.
Let's go.
Valued, and are they happy to talk about this externally without pushing them is absolutely critical. And interestingly, I do think that I've had CFOs and procurement leads really interesting work that we've been doing in the last 2 or so in, and that's really quite, I think, valuable, because they're the ones that will give us a approach to go to the right vendors and partners and be the money. I don't mind what they call it, and I don't care whether the employee knows what it is, as long as they feel like they can talk about working there and, you know.
Yeah, I don't think where the future lies. I think employer brand will continue to grow, and it's already grown within the last kind of 5-6 years, what I've already seen as well. I think the world is just changing so much as well, which makes our lives very difficult and challenging at the same time. I don't know, I'm ready for it, I'm excited for it.
We've got drinks now, like just a drink outside, but then also we're doing a bit more networking at Notes, which is literally a minute away from here. So kind of 5:30, 6-ish, please head on over to Notes. There's loads of food and loads of drinks, please come. And just a really big thank you to everyone for coming today.
You can get one more round of applause.
Cheers, man. We've had a...
What a day.
We're now at the networking, which is great.
So we're now at Notes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
Notes at King's Cross. But what a day.
It's been great.
You know, it's jam-packed day of panel talks, great networking.
Yeah.
And I think is it fair to say it's exceeded expectations?
Definitely. I think it's like, it promised to be something that the industry doesn't really offer.
Yeah.
And it's definitely, I think, delivered on that.
It's done that.
Definitely. It's I definitely got this real sense of community in the room, because especially when that kind of start at the end, I suppose, of the afternoon, which was the EB therapy.
Yeah.
You know, that was great because literally it took a bit of time, but people were contributing from the audience.
Yeah.
And you had some like really honest truths being shared, I think.
It was, and I forget who said it. I think it was Tom. But he said it felt like an old school friends meetup.
Yes.
And it really did. And it was like just a load of people that wanted to help each other, share war stories. And it was a proper therapy session.
It was,
I know it's titled EB therapy, but it ended up being like an actual therapy session for a lot of us. And a lot came out of that. So before the EB therapy, we had
Growing Without a Map. That was
Just
straight
after
after lunch, wasn't it? I like that one. That was, again, I like the honesty of that, because it's basically saying there's no one way of doing something.
Yeah.
You know, and I think there's like really good advice there, which is, you know, things like what I really liked it when I think Alex.
Yeah.
He pointed out to Nick, ex-IBM.
Yeah, Nick Thompson.
Nick Thompson, now at Helion.
Yeah.
He said, when you were at Vodafone,
Yeah.
I reached out to Nick
Yeah.
because I wanted to spend some time, and I took some notes, and I still have those notes with me.
Yeah.
You know,
And that was really nice to hear, actually.
yeah,
And it was just that message of just do that.
yeah,
You know, lean on people in the community, lean on people you don't even know.
exactly.
Send messages. People want to help you. You know, there's people out there, you know, ready to help you. So lean on them. But I think there was a lot of really good stuff that came out of that. And I think Bex mentioned really eloquently, like, no two companies have the same agenda.
Yes.
You know, this company's aspirations are to go in that direction. this company's aspirations are totally different.
Yeah.
So it's like there isn't one blueprint that kind of defines exactly where you need to be heading. It's like just talk to the people internally and figure out what your kind of direction of travel is.
Yeah.
Because everyone's is different.
And it's quite liberating knowing that.
Yeah.
Because I think often I think it's partly down to the education system, is that we're meant to have the right answer.
Yeah.
We're meant to have figured it out.
Yeah.
But actually, we never figure it out until we actually do it.
So true.
So I think there was talk about kind of not necessarily don't lean just on formal learning.
Yeah.
But go out and find your own learning.
Absolutely.
And kind of forge your own path. Yes, if your employer can support you, then fine, but you need to kind of define it yourself.
Yeah. And I think it was summarised, that point was summarised really nicely, that everyone agreed it's all about community.
Yes.
And events like today, and if you were there today, I'm sure you would have loved it. If you weren't there today, just look for events where your industry peers are likely to be. Sign yourself up.
Yeah.
And go along, because it is a therapy session.
Totally. Yeah.
You know, if it's done in the right way, and I must say, Claire and Alex, the way they've designed, curated EB Uncut, you know, hats off.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
if it's done in the right way, it's such a cathartic experience.
Yeah.
And I think today proved that.
And it's really, actually, it shows that you can't just set up any old event.
No.
It needs to be very clearly something valuable that you can offer. And when I say that, it's like, well, value sounds a bit obvious, but it's like, actually, the sessions were very much about, I can learn something from this.
Yeah.
And everyone in employer branding can learn something from this and just share their own experiences.
I agree.
And you had the to EVP or not to EVP, which is...
What a great session.
There was a bit of an actual debate format on that, wasn't there?
So Roger from Leap Create,
Yeah.
amazing job at hosting.
He did, yeah, absolutely.
He brought some proper character
Brought
and
some
personality and
spiciness.
some spice and spark to the conversation.
Yeah.
I think he wanted a few more woons,
He did.
but we nearly got there. It was, but no, it's a really good debate.
Yeah, it was.
And I thought Charu did a great job at really chipping in, you know, on the to not EVP.
Yes,
You know, because there is an argument. You know, these static EVP projects sometimes take 18 months, 24 months to complete.
Yeah.
By the time they've completed, they've cost 50 grand, 60, 100 grand.
And the rest, yeah.
And it's 24 months down the line, it's time to do a new one.
Yeah.
So I think what I got from that was, is it time to rethink the EVP? Look,
Yeah.
we need EVPs.
We need
EVPs,
direction.
We need
Yeah.
direction.
Yeah.
We need a blueprint of
Yeah.
some description. But is there a hybrid approach that can be more fluid
Yeah.
and can be a little bit more nimble in its approach? So I think there's a good conversation there.
Well, that agility is super important, I think. And I think for me, like the answer is, and of course I think we all know this, the answer is in the middle somewhere. It's
Yeah.
like, it does depend. Because I think you don't have to do an EVP to start employer branding.
Well, Ben Phillips said the same. He said the same thing. You're absolutely right.
He said, employer brands already exist.
Yeah.
So,
It's there, isn't it?
and it was, I
It's
think
this-
it was in agreement there, so long as there's direction,
Yeah.
that's what you need. And I think the more people realise actually what you can do is, if you just start, as long as you're clear about the brand of the business and the culture of the business,
Yeah.
and what the business wants to achieve, what success looks like for business,
Yeah.
you can actually just get on and start capturing the employer brand through your people.
Yeah.
Now that might vary, and it might get some
Yeah.
contradictions perhaps,
Yeah.
but at least you're actually doing the exercise of employer branding
Yeah.
to then exercise that muscle, but also get the business used to it,
Yeah.
to then build up the business case to
Yeah.
invest in employer branding programs.
Absolutely. So true. So we then moved on to EB therapy.
We did, yes.
All of us needed it.
Yeah, we did.
My highlight from that was, and I think it kind of kicked off with Nick Thompson, and we ended up talking about the digital experience,
Yes.
the candidate experience. And
Yeah.
I think the main thread was career sites, but it was, from end to end, you arrive on a career site, you apply for a job, how so many people forget about that last mile
Yeah.
ATS part of the process, and how broken it often is.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just think it's, you know, people were moaning about this 10 years ago. Tom mentioned that.
Oh, it's, yeah.
You know, Dave Hazelhurst, I think, had some analogy that Tom articulated incredibly well.
Yeah, the shop, the clothes store.
Yeah.
You go into, and it can be a great experience, but then when you go into the changing rooms, flickering lights.
Yeah.
It just looks like a toilet, basically.
Yeah. The changing room is your ATS.
Exactly, yeah.
It's got the
exactly.
broken mirror, the broken light, and it's horrible. But it's funny, isn't it? We were, you know, people were moaning about this 10 years ago, and largely it's still not a fixed problem. So it's, but I think the therapy session was useful.
It was good. It's looking forward to more events like this, definitely. And it's great that we've still got, you know, a lot of people staying behind for the drinks afterwards.
Absolutely. But good event.
Good stuff. On to the next one.
On to the next.